G'day guys, Dave here from New Zealand Outdoor Blades and Bullets. Hope you're doing fantastic. Please feel free to like, comment and subscribe. It does help out my channel a ton. It won't cost you anything and I'm enjoying talking to people about my various hobbies. Today I want to do a video on hunting the Australian water buffalo, and specifically what rifles and cartridges the Australians use for the water buffalo. And this subject's a little bit fascinating for me, and I'd love to get some feedback, particularly from my Australian buddies or anyone who's hunted the Australian water buffalo, because I have never hunted them. I live in New Zealand, we don't have water buffalo, but one day I wouldn't mind going to Australia and checking these animals out. So the Australian water buffalo is quite fascinating to me because it's a dangerous game, and in New Zealand we don't really have dangerous game, but in Australia they do. In fact, in Australia they've got lots of dangerous things. They've got great white sharks and crocodiles and snakes and all sorts, but they've also got water buffalo. And I'll just tell you a little bit about the water buffalo. So they're actually not native to Australia. They were introduced to the Northern Territory from Timor and the Kissa Island for meat and hides in the remote Northern Territory, which at the time was a British colony. And they were introduced there between 1825 and 1840. There are two different subspecies, as I understand it, of the water buffalo there. We've got the river type from Western Asia and the swamp type from Eastern Asia. And they're two slightly different. But these animals are huge. So a mature bull would be up to 5 feet tall. They've got a thick hide, and some of the males can get up to 1,200 kilograms. It's not pounds, it's up to 1,200 kilograms. So you think grizzly bears are scary? Well, they are. These are scary as well. They are very dangerous and unpredictable. They can charge without warning. They're territorial, they're protective of other bulls, and really interesting, they're vindictive as well. If they decide they don't like you, they will go out of their way to try to kill you just because they don't like you. So it's more than just self-defense to the water buffalo. And from what I have researched, they will sometimes sneak up on you, circle around behind the hunter and ambush that hunter from an unexpected direction just because they can, and they want to hurt or even kill the hunter. So these are a very real threat in outback rural areas in Northern Territory, Australia. They sound pretty big and pretty mean. They've also got big bone structure, so a little bit like, I imagine, some of your African dangerous game. You need a big cartridge solid bullet to knock them down. So what cartridges do the Australians use for hunting water buffalo? Well, no, not surprising, and going back in time, at one point there were a lot actually hunted with the good old 303 using military ammunition, and that would have been about a 174 grain 303 Lee Enfield cartridge fired out of the military cartridge. They were pretty common back then, and there would have been hundreds or thousands of water buffalo shot with these. Of course, you'd want to be placing your shot pretty carefully. But before we go on to what people are using now, we don't want to forget the historical context of the 303 British round that was originally used. In fact, that was pretty much all there was back prior to World War II. Okay, but what do they recommend you use now? And on my research, they've said, well, a 375 H&H Magnum or 375 Ruger as a bare minimum. They've said that's a minimum for them. 416 Remington or 416 Rigby, 458 Winchester Magnum, 404 Jeffrey, or good old-fashioned 9.3 by 62 Mauser. The projectiles, they said, is a minimum of 300 grain, but if you really want to smash bone, 400 grains with a solid or bonded projectile. Shot placement, don't miss. That's your shot placement, because if you miss, this thing might attack you. If you wound it, it will probably attack you. But no, jokes aside, don't want to miss or wound it. The shot placement, I've been told, is really, you want to smash through that shoulder, through some bone, and really make that first shot count, because you might be in a bit of trouble if you don't make that first shot count. Even better, have a mate with you, so you got 2 rifles there. If you stuff up, there's at least 2 of you with a rifle. But anyway, bearing in mind I've never hunted these things, I would love to hear from some of my Australian friends about what you're using for these water buffalo, because I'm absolutely fascinated by dangerous game in the Southern Hemisphere, because we don't actually have that much unless you live in Australia, where everything is dangerous. Okay, if you've got this far, have a fantastic day, and thanks for watching. Cheers.